And we're back with Premier Youth Sports. My name is Clarence Presley. This is my brother Deshaun Presley. And to my right is our special guest, Robert Mason. Rob, man, thanks for being on the show with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys inviting me. It's a pleasure. So thank you.
Definitely. So we always start off by just having, our guests try and, explain their story, how they got started with football. Even back to your high school days, whatever that may be, so just give us a little story about your football background.
Okay, so a little bit about my background. I'm originally from the East Coast, by the way. I was born in Jamaica, Queens, New York, and became a military brat in my younger years. So after leaving New York, we transitioned to Maryland, where I had my first taste of youth football at the age of 7 years old. Wow. I played for the Severn Savages in a weighted league. I remember it like it was yesterday. First position was QB, believe it or not. Yeah. I played every year of football all the way through youth, middle school, high school, and in college. So I'll back up a little bit. After growing up in Maryland, I became a military brat, so moved to North Carolina, spent some time at Fort Bragg, and I got a pretty diverse background. I had the pleasure of moving to Italy, the country.
Really?
Yeah, and spent a couple years, about 2.5 years in Italy, and I got to play in Italy as a high school ball. Right. And we won 2 championships. I want to call them state championships, but
it's the Kobe effect, man.
Yeah, exactly. So came back after spending time in Italy and ended up landing in Fort Benning, Georgia. You talk about football.
Right.
Football is real.
Right.
And so I had a chance to play high school ball for Columbus High School in Georgia. And man, it was a wake-up call, great experience, which really set me up for my senior year when I transitioned back to Maryland and played my senior year at Arundel High School, and I got to graduate with friends that I went to elementary school with, which was just a great experience.
Right.
Like some others, my story was I came out, I ended up having to go the junior college route, and I'm sure you guys have heard that story before, which is partially why I'm engulfed in youth football and in the community to help mentor these kids. And after playing 2 years of JUCO, I was an inside linebacker at that time. QB days were just 1 year at 7 years old. I was able to transition to Shepherd University in West Virginia, where I finished out in '97. And with that, it was just a great experience. So my football career, youth, middle school, high school, college, never missed a season.
Well, this is not one of our questions that we have planned, but if you could talk about that passion you had to mentor these young players.
So, the passion to mentor the young players, it gets to the personal level as well. When I was in Maryland, I lived with my father at the time. And he was the one that signed me up for youth football. So it was something that him and I did together.
Right.
And, unfortunately, he passed away when I was, 12 and a half years old from a heart attack. So it's one of the things that has stayed near and dear to my heart, because he would be at the practices, he would be at the games, and, it just stuck with me. And, so football, I kept playing, because of him. And with that, when I coach and I'm out there on the field with kids and you're mentoring, you got the kids that, are all set up. They got both parents at home, and you got single parents, you got kids with no parents. Right. Kids go through a lot. Yeah. And, I can relate to a lot of their situations. So, to be able to mentor kids through a channel like a sport of football is a win-win situation to me, because you're setting them up for real life and you're also having fun by playing the game as well. Right.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Total sense, man. Trust me, that's part of our core values is mentorship, and we want to see more of that. More coaches like yourself that's vested in these kids' lives, and you've done it beyond just FBU. If you could talk a little bit about that, your coaching resume that's been in youth football over the years, could you share a little bit with our audience about where you've lend your services over the years?
Absolutely. You got a minute? So I've spent many years in the youth football arena, and again, it's that passion. So I wanted to get back and teach. So believe it or not, I've coached for several fall organizations, and I started out. I coached for Federal Way Hawks for a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
And I want to give a shout out to the Federal Way Hawks. It's a great organization that Barney runs there. And I had a great time. Spent one season with them. And then I ended up attending this camp. Back in the day, it was called the Competitive Edge Camp. And I linked up with the athletic director for Graham Eagles youth football. So I spent the majority of my youth career, fall ball youth career, at the Graham Eagles organization, which is a great organization, by the way. It's a great feeder program, and a great concept that they have going to prepare the guys for high school. Not only was I a coach there, but I held several positions on the board, which ties right into FBU.
Right.
I was the last couple of years there, I was president of the organization. I held the vice president position before that, and my first board position was director of player development. That's the role that really got me going as far as outside of the box fall football,
right.
And it got me into FBU. So my role as director of player development was to come up with different events and things like that for the kids in the organization, so that we could do things outside of football for those that didn't play multi-sports.
Right.
I always think about our bigs, our linemen, right?
Right.
They tend to go on to wrestle, but then they don't play a lot of other sports.
Right.
So what I was able to do was, and this happened by a good friend of mine. We attended a semi-pro arena football game at the Kent Showwear Center. I don't know if you guys remember the Kent Predators.
Yeah.
Well, we had a friend that played on that team, and we were taking both our kids to go watch them play. Well, during halftime, these youth kids come out. Exactly. We got the big guys as well. And they had a scrimmage playing 8-man arena youth football. So my buddy and I, we coached together, we looked at each other. We're like, "Oh man, this is just awesome!"
Right.
So after the halftime scrimmage, we tracked down one of the coaches, and we were able to find out that the AYFL had been established since 2006 out of Marysville, Arlington area up north.
Right.
So at the time, there was a gentleman named Mike Berry that we connected with. Basically, he set us up. We came all the way back down here to the Puget Sound, and we put together the South Puget Sound, the very first travel select youth arena team.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know what? That was the beginning of me getting into the select round. So we pulled kids from Curtis High School, Lakes, Graham, Puyallup Roughriders, and things like that, the organizations like that. And we traveled up north for 2 years straight before bringing the concept down here to the south, which was the IYF.
Yeah, I remember.
In the Tacoma Dome. So with that, we were able to get into that space, which actually spun off into spring football. I had a spring 11-on-11 team, and then we met up with Eric Medeiros, who also coached an arena team.
Oh, really?
And Joe Kirsch, who a lot of people probably remember his son, Harley Kirsch, who is the starting QB for Eastside Catholic and now at Cornell.
Right.
Eric Medeiros is currently the director of player development for our state for FBU.
Okay.
Well, those two were approached by FBU back in 2011 to create the first. It was Team Washington at the time.
Right.
So it was only two teams, seventh grade and eighth grade. So Harley and a slew of guys were on the eighth grade team, and then they had a seventh grade team where they reached out to me to send some kids from our area.
Right.
So I did that, and then with that, it kind of took off from there. So the second year, I was asked to head coach the very first sixth grade team for FBU. And that was in 2012. And at the time, they didn't advance all the way to the national championship. They only had the regionals. So 6, 7, and 8. So I took a group along with a great staff down to Oregon, and we blew away the competition and just had a blast and won the regionals. Our seventh grade team at the time had a great showing down there as well, and went on to advance to rounds 3 and 4, which were in Reno. They got beat in round 4, I believe by Reno, just off the top of my head, but had a great experience. Our 8th grade team lost in the second round in Oregon at that time. But to answer your question on how I got in as the FBU director, from there it kind of took off. And later on, I could tell you about the success the teams that we've had year over year.
Right. Well, since we're on that subject, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what's the benefit of kids playing for FBU, and why would you recommend it?
What's the benefit of kids playing with FBU and why I would recommend it? There's many benefits of playing with FBU and why I would recommend it. But just a few that stand out off the top of my head. I would say first and foremost, the experience. The experience. Right. I need for people to understand that there's life outside of your fall organization.
Right.
There's life outside of Washington. Right. So the experience of getting these talented kids together, putting them together on one team, representing their fall ball programs, as evident by them getting to wear their helmets from their organization, and kind of living with other kids for, let's call it a few months, and coming away with being able to travel and go represent your state and play football is just a great experience.
Yeah.
For those of you that have kids on AAU basketball teams that travel, select baseball teams that travel, girls volleyball team, I'm thinking of all the select sports.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it's like sending your kids to camp. So I would say first and foremost, the experience is like no other. And then, when you get to the show, and that's, the national championship, the event, it really all comes together. Second thing I would say is, I have people use this term a lot, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Okay. I firmly believe, and this is my opinion, I'm entitled to it, that kids,
I hear that.
Kids, if you want to get better at something, you have to either be around, the best, and you definitely have to play the best.
Right.
So when you're talking about this type of scenario, with Select, we do our best to try to get the best kids out there, all right? Nobody executes 100%, but we come close. So now you talk about the benefit to the kid. There's a lot of kids that start on their regular programs that they come into this space and they're not the guy anymore.
Right.
So now when you talk about your kid walking away with how to overcome that type of adversity, hey dad, hey mom, I'm not the best kid anymore. What do I do? You got two choices. You can either, take your ball, go home, go back to your program where you're the best and, go be that guy. Or you could step up, sharpen your skills, find out what's making these guys good and, and compete and make yourself better.
Right.
So I believe that the experience, being around other top talent, and then more importantly, playing other top talent is something, that these kids get from the FBU experience.
Yeah, awesome.
That's awesome, yeah. So, in terms of tryouts for FBU, how does that process work? How does that look?
So, in terms of tryouts, and I'll really speak to this year. You have, and I guess you're asking too how we pick players, correct? So there's a lot of different ways that we pick players. Tryouts is definitely one of them. So I'll touch on that right now, and then talk about some of the others. Okay. So our tryouts that we can now have officially, we this year we're looking at having several tryouts in different cities. All right, we want to expand the brand. We understand that not everybody can make it to the 2 tryouts that we've had in the past. So we're gonna have 4 tryouts.
Awesome.
The beauty, it's all free.
Wow. All right, really?
All 4 of these tryouts are free. It's not about us trying to generate revenue or anything like that. We want to get the kids out there.
Yeah.
So for those that that may not be able to afford it, bring your kid on out.
Right.
Our first tryout is going to be held July 2nd at Garfield High School.
You're in the city now, man. You're bringing it to the city.
All right.
So we're starting there.
Yeah.
We want to bring the dogs out there July 2nd. Okay. Our second tryout we're looking at having in Tacoma, to be determined on date.
Right.
Third tryout, we're looking at having an Olympia.
Okay.
So we're going down to TCYFL, Thurston County League, find some dogs down there, and then we'll finalize the tryout tour most likely in Redmond, in that Eastside Catholic area, to capture kids on the plateau.
Right.
Now, it just doesn't stop there though. We also, we attend several events to look for kids as well. An event that just happened this past weekend was the FBU Seattle camp. That was hosted at Eastside Catholic. So myself and the staff were up there Saturday and Sunday looking for talent. We'll go to training academies. There's a lot of them. You got one in Bellevue. You got Puyallup. You got up in the Bothell area. We'll go or reach out to the trainers and look for talent there as well. And then more importantly, we'll attend games. We'll attend games. So, we got a lot of our coaches deployed out there, and we're looking for talent, and we want to see kids in pads. The tryouts without pads are great, but I'm going to keep it real with you. We want to see if you can bang out there on the field, because that's what's important. So with that, we want parents to send, film in to our email address so that we can evaluate kids that way.
Can you share with them what your email address is?
Yeah, pretty easy. It's FBU Team Seattle @gmail.com. So that's FBU Team Seattle @gmail.com. Send your film and all your contact information so that we can evaluate the kids.
There you guys go. Give a little bit more about once they make the team. So what's that process look when you're talking about regionals and the national tournament? I got a little chance for the last 2 years' experience, but I want you to tell them so they can hear it coming from you.
Yeah. So once you make the team, that's the first piece, right? Now you're over the hump. Now we have to prepare for the national championship run, and the preparation is not like fall football at all. So it's vastly different. We only get at best 13 practices to prepare for a national championship. So the kids that get rostered on this team, you have to be ready both physically and mentally. So when you come in, we build our practices. Typically, we're looking at Saturdays, Sundays, and Wednesdays. And we maximize those practices. So, each head coach and staff, they come equipped, ready to go with a very detailed agenda, so that once you hit practice, there's no wasted time whatsoever. You're ready to rock and roll. We're hitting everyday drills, which some call EDDs. We'll have some competition period, but the majority of those practices are centered around install. You got to remember, these kids are, these are talented kids coming off of a season, so their skills should be already sharpened, and ready to go. The one thing that I want to make a point of is FBU is not out there to compete with a fall ball program, nor are we there to disrupt anything. That's very important because we respect the fall ball programs. Without you, there is no us. So we make sure that kids that need to finish their season, they finish their season, and they're not penalized for that. It's good to know. Yeah, we also connect with those fall ball programs, so when the season's over, we can go high speed, low drag.
Now, where's the tournament going to take you this year? What's the route to get to Naples, if you want to talk about that? Yeah, so in the past, the venues are still to be determined right now. So as far as the run, if you make the team, what you can expect is you can definitely expect to travel. And I'll use last year as an example. So last year, our team traveled to Sacramento, California. And basically the opponents that we faced were picked from a lottery, which was kind of cool. In the past, it was more regional. So we didn't know who we were going to play. Kind of cool on one end, but from a scouting perspective, kind of tough. But the playing field was even for everyone. So we spent a few days down in Sacramento where we actually played a total of 3 games. So we condensed the rounds. We played first, second, and third rounds down there. Now, what you got to understand is this is a single elimination tournament. So you got to win or you're going home. If you're lucky, you may get a consolation game. But staying positive, using last year, all 3 teams, we went down there, each team won, and then
we came home for about a week or a little bit over a week, and then we had to be ready to transition down to Naples, Florida. So Naples, Florida is where the tournament actually finished. So single elimination down there, but that's where the show is.
Yeah.
That's where they pamper you. That's where they take care of you. That's where the kids get swagged out. I mean, you're talking 5-star hotels.
Yeah.
Kids stayed in the Ritz-Carlton last year, and they do a huge pep rally for the kids. They have a beach party for the kids, and then more importantly, it's Florida. It's sunny. You get to go out there and play some good old-fashioned football.
Yeah.
And there's no tournament like it across the nation right now.
Right. So this is a question I always have in terms of talent now. That I know you get to see, the whole landscape. In Cambridge, you travel. You've been to Florida. You've seen all those type of athletes that are down there. How do you feel as far as in Washington now, how we measure up to the rest of the country as far as in terms of the athletes that we have?
Oh man, that's a great question. How we measure up, and I'm smiling because I would say we measure up.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. The guys at the top of the house at FBU, Eric Richards, Steve Quinn, Doug Berman, they will tell you that Washington has been put on the map by Team Seattle over the last 6 years, given our success within this national championship.
Right.
There is no question about it.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, when you're down there or just in the tournament, you see talent.
Yeah.
Freaks of nature, as we call them,
Right.
and we have them too.
Yeah.
I think about our 8th grade team last year, our 7th grade team, our 6th grade team. Our 7th grade team alone, the offensive line averaged 6 foot plus, 240 pounds plus.
Yeah.
You're talking about some big kids. We had one of the biggest lines in the whole entire tournament. And then when you talk about our showing over the last 6 years and the success that we've had.
Right.
We're in the semifinals at the very least, every single year, every single year, and I can go into depth about the success we've had if you want.
Right. That's awesome.
So share with us about coaches, because none of that happens unless you have coaches. So talk about the quality of the coaches and what your parents expect when they entrust their kids to these coaches to go play at this level.
Well, I'll speak to what the parents expect first, because I'm a parent myself, and my goal with anything that I do involving kids, whether it's FBU, fall ball, or what have you, is ROI. And that's an acronym for return on investment. All right, parents deserve a return on their investment, whether it be just normal fall ball. They're expecting their kids to be better than what they were when they came in.
Right.
With FBU, they're expecting their kids to have this experience and be competitive because they understand it coming in, and doing our best to go down and compete. With that, you have to have quality coaches. So one of the things that we do, and when I say we, Eric Medeiros and I, when it comes to selecting the head coaches, we put this process in place a couple years ago. We have the coaches submit a coaching resume. And just like applying for a job, we'll sit down and have a full-on interview with you. Okay? And with all the candidates, after it's done, we'll get into the think tank and we'll pick what we deem as the best candidate for that role. Now, with that being said, you can only have one head coach, right? You can try to have co-head coaches and things like that, but it's pretty much only one.
Right.
Now, selecting the rest of the coaches is, in my opinion, the fun part. And I would like to see this continue to grow. That's why I'm glad I'm on this platform here, because our goal is to have a select coaching staff just like the select team.
Right.
So what I mean by that is our staffs are comprised of coaches from different organizations.
Right.
And that's been the case every single year. And I would like to see that expanded. Of course, just like anything else, you're volunteering.
Right.
But if we can get more coaches from all different organizations, within our area, up and down the I-5 corridor, then I think that's going to not only increase the experience, but it's going to, get the FBU Team Seattle, word out there a little bit more to these organizations. So we expect our coaches to come in and have great communication skills. Okay, because you're communicating with impact, and you need to coach kids up. You got to have some sort of football knowledge and football experience.
Right.
You got to be organized as well, and be able to handle structure. And you know what? You just have to be able to accept whatever role it is that you're in. So as an example, Clarence, we have coaches that are on the staff that actually head organizations,
Right.
Which I think is a win-win. We have a plethora of coaches that are on the staff. More importantly, that don't have kids on the team.
Right.
We try to stay away from having daddy coaches and things like that. As best as we can, and we try to diversify the coaching staff so that you're getting a mix out there.
Wow, that's awesome. As far as when it comes to cost, we know that there's a lot of families, that have multiple kids. Let's say they have one on the 6th grade level and one on the 8th grade level. How do you kind of offset some of the costs, if that's in terms of fundraising, things of that nature? What type of things does FBU try and put into place to help out with that, if possible?
Well, when it comes to cost, I think it's important to know first and foremost how much FBU absorbs as far as costs. To put to bed any rumors or anything out that may be out there. On average, for the last 6 years, the only cost to FBU from a family has been $175. Okay, and that pays for various things. The bulk of the costs comes into play with traveling,
Right.
housing. Again, I'll go back to examples like AAU basketball, baseball, so on and so forth. So, the things that we've tried to put into place to help the masses are, utilizing several fundraising avenues. And, we're trying to get better every single year. Because our goal in a perfect world would be to have every single kid paid for and taken care of.
Right.
Can't take care of the parents.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to take care of the kids. So here's some things that has been done over the last few years. We've had raffles where for those that have participated, they pull a certain percentage back to them. And we've had some kids do so well that it's paid for their whole entire trip. We've had mini takeovers, where we'll do an Applebee's takeover, Buffalo Wild Wings takeover, something of that nature. Cookie dough and, different fundraising channels that way. More importantly, where, some of our teams have been blessed is getting sponsorship by businesses. That's been really, really big for us. And that's something that we're trying to put a laser focus on, with now having our nonprofit status to where, we can, leverage that a little bit more so that businesses, one, you can use us for free marketing, but more importantly, support these kids, these youth in our community that are going out and representing, our community, our state, and doing something that is going to be pretty much a life-changing event for them. So, to answer your question, several fundraising avenues, and our goal, same thing this year, is to, have every kid paid for it.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. So do me one last favor. Look out into the camera. Let these families know why you feel passionate, why their kids are quality athletes, why they should experience this FBU. And then one more time, give them a final contact information piece. I want to make sure they remember your name, get your contact information, but appeal to the parents one more time and let them know what this experience is going to be like if they choose to get involved with FBU. And we're spreading the word. We want it in all the leagues. We realize that it's not just Northwest Premier. We got multiple leagues out there that we're plugging. We're going to be coming out to your area as well to showcase your leagues. So definitely tune in. Let's turn it over to you to give them some final thoughts.
Here's my final thoughts, and you know what? Actions speaks a lot louder than words, and you got to understand, we've been at this for 6 years, and with FBU, you're guaranteed to get a great experience, for your player that makes the team. 2012, you know what? We had a great team go down and represent. 2013, we had a representation in the national championship in the Texas Alamo Dome. You know what? Overall, we've had 3 national championship appearances. The last 2 being, against Broward County and my hometown, Maryland. We've had several semifinal appearances in the Elite 8. My point is, we're successful. we're here to win. We're gonna make it. So if you want your kid to be a part of something that's life-changing, if you want your kid to be part of a tournament where Little League World Series meets March Madness smashed together, spits out FBU National Championship, bring them out to these free tryouts. Let's get them going. I want to see as many kids out there as possible. You can get a hold of me anytime through email at FBUTeamSeattle@gmail.com. Please follow us for all information on Facebook at FBU National Championship -Seattle. On Twitter, we got a lot of stuff going on there at Team Seattle FBU, where you'll get to see a plethora of our alumni that have played for us, that are getting offers and doing really well in high school. You'll get to follow us there as well. So again, we're here. You know, we want to see as many kids come out and represent our state, and I would love for you to reach out to me.
Hey, you guys heard it here, and I'm going to give him one last plug. He just kind of hit on it. The exposure that FBU also gives your kids on the national level is something for you to consider, and we're still trying to get one of them rings. You know, we've been right there. I think we got the talent. We just got to keep pushing. So make sure you guys reach out to Coach Rob, a fantastic guy. Rob, thank you again for joining us today, man.
Appreciate you guys.